Okay, stepping into the world of crypto, it can feel, well, complicated. Like walking into a huge marketplace, loads of different doors, different signs.
Definitely. And for anyone looking to actually, buy, sell, trade these digital assets, picking the right exchange, it's not just some small detail.
Oh, it's fundamental. It hits everything, right?
Yeah,
How much you pay, how safe your money feels, even just how easy the whole thing is.
exactly. So today we're going to try and cut through some of that noise. We're doing a deep dive into 3 of the really big names for US users: Coinbase, Kraken, and Binance.us.
Yeah, get right into the nitty-gritty.
That's the plan. Think of them as like the main roads into the crypto market if you're in the States. But, and this is key, they are not all the same, not even close.
How so?
Well, they aim for different kinds of users, for one. Their fees are different, sometimes wildly different. Security approaches vary. What you can actually trade, the features they offer, it's all distinct.
So to really get a handle on these differences, we've pulled together a bunch of sources for this deep dive.
Yep. We've got reviews from places like Investopedia, comparisons from crypto analysts, Coin Bureau, for instance. And maybe most importantly, we've sifted through what actual users are saying. The real-world experiences shared on forums like Reddit.
Okay, so the mission today is pretty clear then. We're boiling down all that info, taking the key facts, the numbers, the user feedback, and just laying it out side by side for you.
Exactly. The goal is that by the end of this, you'll have a much clearer picture of how Coinbase, Kraken, and Binance.us really stack up, focusing on the stuff that actually matters when you're deciding, where do I open my account? Where do I start this crypto journey?
It's about getting those essential insights, the things you can actually use so you feel, well, confident making that choice.
Precisely. It's about understanding the landscape, not just knowing the brand names. Let's get started.
Okay, let's unpack this. Before we get lost in the weeds of features and fees, maybe just a quick snapshot. Who are these 3 players? What's the quick pitch on each, based on what the sources say?
Right. Good place to start. Let's take Kraken first. They're one of the real old-timers in crypto, founded way back in 2011.
2011, wow. That's ancient in crypto years.
It really is. Makes them one of the oldest, most established exchanges anywhere. Started in San Francisco, though sources say they're fully remote now. Kraken's built this really strong reputation, especially with maybe more serious traders, and they get highlighted a lot in reviews for their security. Big claim is they've never had a major hack where user funds were lost. That's a huge trust signal for people.
Okay, the veteran known for security. Then you've got Coinbase, probably the name most people recognize, right?
Sure.
Especially here in the US.
Absolutely. Founded in 2012, so just a year after Kraken, Coinbase has really positioned itself, particularly the main simple platform, as the entry point for beginners. It gets praised constantly for being super user-friendly, very intuitive design. Plus, they put a huge emphasis on playing by the rules, regulatory compliance in the US. That makes it feel maybe a bit more familiar, more accessible if you're coming from traditional finance and are new to crypto.
Makes sense. The household name, easy for newcomers. And the third one, Binance.us.
Right. So as the name tells you, this is the American arm of Binance, which globally is the biggest crypto exchange by far, just in terms of trading volume. Binance.us launched later, end of 2019, specifically to serve the US market and follow US rules.
And Binance globally is known for what?
Massive selection of coins, usually very, very low trading fees. That's their big draw. But, and this is really important to get up front, the sources stress this. Binance.us is separate. It's got a smaller menu of assets compared to the global site, and it operates differently because of the US regulatory maze. It has to.
Okay, so that sets the scene. We have the veteran, Kraken, the beginner-friendly giant, Coinbase, and the US-focused arm of the global leader, Binance.us. Now, let's dive into the details, starting with something everyone cares about, fees. How much does it actually cost to use these platforms?
Fees. Yeah, they are notoriously tricky in crypto. It depends on so many things, like are you doing an instant buy or are you using the order book? How much are you trading? What coin is it? Even how you put money in or take it out, it all affects the cost.
Sounds complicated.
It can be. But our sources do give a pretty clear general picture when you look just at spot trading fees. That's, buying or selling crypto at whatever the market price is right now.
And what's the general consensus on that ranking from the sources? Who's typically cheapest? Who's most expensive?
Generally, Binance.us comes out on top for the lowest spot trading fees. Kraken usually sits somewhere in the middle. Their rates are competitive, especially if you trade a lot and use their pro platform. And then Coinbase, particularly on its basic interface for small trades, tends to be the most expensive for spot trading, though you're paying for convenience and simplicity there.
Okay, let's try and put some actual numbers on that. What did the sources say for Kraken's fees?
So Kraken uses what's called a maker-taker fee model. It changes based on how much you've traded in the last 30 days. For makers, those are people placing orders that don't fill immediately. Adding liquidity, the fees range from 0%, basically nothing, up to 0.25%. For takers, people whose orders do fill immediately, taking liquidity, it's 0.10%, up to 0.40%.
In a typical example,
One source gave an example for trades under $50,000 in volume, 0.16% for makers, 0.26% for takers. So fairly competitive starting rates.
right. And Coinbase, you said they can be more expensive, especially on the simple platform?
Yeah, the simple buy crypto button on Coinbase often bundles the fee in, making it less transparent but definitely higher. For really small trades, like under $10, one source mentioned a flat fee of like 99 cents. But if you use their separate, more advanced platform, which is now just called Coinbase Advanced.
Used to be Coinbase Pro.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. They merged it. On Coinbase Advanced, it's also a maker-taker model. Sources mention typical taker fees around 0.50% and maker fees around 0.26%, but the range can be really wide, like 0.0% to 0.60%, depending heavily on your trading volume and whether you're using the simple buy or the advanced interface. Basically, that convenience on the simple side costs you more in fees.
Okay. And Binance.us, the one cited as generally having the lowest spot fees.
According to one source, yeah, they charge a flat 0.10% spot trading fee for most users, the non-VIPs. That's noticeably lower than the starting points for Kraken and Coinbase Advanced. The global Binance site has this incredibly complex fee system with tons of tiers, but Binance US seems to aim for a bit more simplicity while still keeping that core low cost for spot trades.
So for the trade itself, Binance.us often wins on price. But you mentioned their overall structure can still be complex. How do people save money on these platforms then?
Good question. The sources point out a few ways. On Coinbase, the big one is don't use the simple buy-sell buttons if you care about fees. Use Coinbase Advanced. The fees are just lower there. They also launched this subscription thing, Coinbase One. One source said it's like $30 a month.
What does that get you?
0 trading fees, up to a certain monthly limit anyway, plus better customer support apparently. Could be worth it if you trade a lot. On Binance, the trick is using their own coin, BNB. If you hold BNB and choose to pay your fees with it, you get a discount.
Oh, okay.
And at Kraken, like we said, it's all about volume. The more you trade in a 30-day window, the lower your percentage fee gets. So it rewards active traders.
Makes sense. But fees aren't just the trading part, right?
Yeah.
What about getting regular money, like US dollars, onto the exchange and back out again?
Absolutely crucial point. Depositing crypto into these exchanges, almost always free, that's standard. But getting fiat, like dollars in and out, that can cost you sometimes quite a bit, depending on how you do it.
Like wire transfers.
Yeah, wires tend to be pricier. Sources mention both Kraken and Coinbase charge around $10 to deposit via wire and maybe $25 to withdraw via wire, so not cheap for smaller amounts.
What about ACH, the standard bank transfer method in the US?
That's usually the cheaper way. Coinbase is consistently cited as offering free ACH deposits, which is great.
And Kraken, I thought I saw a note about some confusion there in the sources.
You picked up on that too. It's a bit murky based on the sources. One source says ACH is likely free on Kraken, similar to Coinbase, but another source listed cannot deposit withdraw via ACH as a negative for Kraken US users. And yet another source actually listed Kraken ACH fees ranging from 0.5% plus 90 cents up to 1.5%.
There. Not free then.
Yeah.
Or maybe restricted.
It seems that way. It could be a nuance, like maybe they don't use the standard ACH network the same way or rely on third parties that charge fees, or maybe availability depends on your specific bank or state. The takeaway from the sources seems to be Coinbase ACH is reliably free. Kraken's ACH situation is less clear. It might cost you or might not be available in the traditional sense for everyone. Definitely something you'd need to check directly on Kraken based on your own account and location.
Okay, good clarification. What about using credit or debit cards? People like the speed, but they're usually expensive.
Usually very expensive, yeah.
Okay.
And there's a big difference here. Kraken charges pretty hefty fees for card purchases, 3.75% plus a small fixed fee listed as Miru 0.25, so roughly 27 cents.
Ouch.
Yeah. Coinbase is actually quite a bit lower. They charge 2.49% for most crypto card purchases. And interestingly, if you buy the stablecoin USDC with a card on Coinbase, it's free. So if you absolutely need to use a card, Coinbase is likely the cheaper route based on these numbers.
Right. And one last fee type network fees.
Yeah.
When you move your crypto off the exchange to your own wallet.
Yep. can't forget those. These are the fees charged by the blockchain itself, like Ethereum gas or Bitcoin miner fees. The exchange might absorb them, bundle them, or just pass them straight to you. And they change all the time depending on how busy the network is.
Any specific examples from the sources?
Yeah, Kraken was mentioned as charging a 0.1% processing fee if you use the Bitcoin Lightning Network for withdrawals. That's a faster, cheaper way to send Bitcoin. Binance was noted as having variable withdrawal fees depending on the coin and network conditions, with examples like charging 0.01 ETH to withdraw Ether, 4.02 SOL for Solana, or zero point 0.5 Matic for Polygon. Those are the costs just to move those specific coins out of Binance.
Okay, so summing up the whole fee situation, it sounds like it's really a trade-off.
It absolutely is. If your number one goal is the absolute lowest spot trading fee, Binance. US often looks like the winner, but you might deal with more complexity elsewhere in their fee structure. Kraken offers really competitive fees, especially if you're active and use Kraken Pro, and those volume tiers are nice. Coinbase is usually pricier for basic trades, but you get simplicity, those free ACH deposits, lower card fees, and ways to reduce costs with Advanced or Coinbase One.
So the cheapest really depends on how you're going to use it.
Exactly. Are you trading tiny amounts once a month? Are you moving large sums via bank transfer? Are you an active day trader? Your specific activity dictates which fee structure hurts you the least.
Okay, that's fees covered. Now, beyond the cost, what can you actually do on these platforms? What can you trade? Let's talk supported cryptos and trading pairs.
Right. The number of coins listed is often a big headline number, but it's only part of the picture. The sources give us some figures, but remember these can change pretty quickly as exchanges list new things.
So what are the rough numbers?
Globally, Binance lists a huge amount, over 350 coins. But Binance.us, tailored for the US, is more limited. Sources say around 150, maybe 160 plus assets. Coinbase supports over 280 assets globally, maybe 260 or so specifically for US users, according to some sources. Kraken globally has over 300, but for US users, the numbers in the sources varied a bit. One said 237 assets, another mentioned 69 coins globally, but only 52 for US investors.
That Kraken US number seems a bit inconsistent between sources.
Yeah, it does. I'd probably lean towards the higher numbers being more indicative of the general variety they aim for, but it highlights that getting precise up-to-the-minute counts can be tricky. Overall, though, for US users, the total number of coins listed seems somewhat comparable across the three, maybe with Binance, US having a slight edge, then Coinbase, then Kraken US potentially a bit behind depending on which source you trust most.
But you said the number of coins isn't the whole story. What about trading pairs?
Ah, yes. This is where Kraken really shines, according to one comparison source. They offer way more trading pairs than Coinbase. The numbers cited were 758 pairs on Kraken versus 423 on Coinbase.
Wow, that's a big difference. What exactly is a trading pair again?
It's just trading one asset directly against another. So not just Bitcoin against US dollars, BTC, USD, but also maybe Ethereum against Bitcoin, ETH, or Solana against Ethereum, Soleth, or Cardano against Tether, ADSTT.
And why does having more pairs matter?
Flexibility. If you want to trade directly from, say, Polkadot into Chainlink, having a .link pair lets you do that in one trade. Without it, you might have to sell DOT for USD, then buy Link with USD. That's two trades, potentially two sets of fees, and exposure to price changes in between. So for active traders trying to execute specific strategies between different altcoins, more pairs means more direct routes and potentially lower costs. Kraken having significantly more pairs gives traders a lot more options there.
That makes sense. A huge advantage for certain strategies. What about how quickly they list new coins? Is one platform faster off the mark?
The sources suggest that Binance, globally at least, tends to be more aggressive about listing newer, maybe sometimes riskier cryptocurrencies. That appeals to people hunting for the next big thing, but obviously carries more risk. Coinbase is seen as more conservative, more restrictive. They tend to list coins only after they're more established or meet certain compliance checks.
So if you're really into exploring brand new, smaller altcoins,
Binance US might offer more options than Coinbase, but still within the constraints of US regulations, which are stricter than global regulations. Kraken sits somewhere in the middle, perhaps, but the key takeaway is Coinbase is generally slower to list the newest stuff.
got it. And fiat currencies. Getting regular money in and out from different countries.
Yeah, this matters more for international users, but it shows the platform's global reach. Kraken supports more fiat currencies than Coinbase. Sources list 7 for Kraken: US dollar, euro, Canadian dollar, Australian dollar, British pound, Swiss franc, and Japanese yen.
7, okay. And Coinbase.
Just 3, according to the sources: US dollar, British pound, and euro. Binance Global supports tons, like over 60. But again, Binance US is primarily focused on the US dollar. The sources also pointed out small differences like Polkadot, DOT, being available on Kraken US, which might matter to specific investors.
Okay, so summing up assets. Coin counts might be roughly similar for US users, but Kraken dominates in trading pairs offering way more flexibility. Binance.us might list newer coins faster. Kraken has broader global fiat support. Now let's shift to actually using these things. How easy are they, especially for someone totally new? The user experience.
The user experience, or UX. This is a really big differentiator, and it's where Coinbase has really built its brand, according to pretty much all the sources.
Okay.
Coinbase is consistently called the most beginner-friendly. Its main interface is described as clean, simple, intuitive. It's designed to make those basic tasks, buying your first Bitcoin, selling some Ethereum, sending crypto to a friend, as straightforward as possible. Minimum clutter.
Okay, that makes sense for attracting new users. What about Kraken and Binance.us?
They're generally seen as having a steeper learning curve, especially their advanced trading views like Kraken Pro. They just pack in a lot more information charts, order books, different order types, which is great for experienced traders, but can definitely feel overwhelming if you're just starting out.
But are they doing anything to address that?
Yeah, sources mention Kraken specifically has worked on this. They introduced something called Simple Mode back in 2025, aiming to make the platform less intimidating for beginners. Plus, they have a big educational section called Kraken Learn, with lots of articles and guides. Interestingly, one source did describe Binance.us as having a beginner-friendly interface too, so perhaps the US version is deliberately simpler than the sometimes complex global Binance site.
Good to know they're trying to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
Now, accessibility isn't just about the interface. It's also about, can you even use it where you live? U.S. state regulations are a huge factor here.
Absolutely critical point. These exchanges are not available everywhere in the U.S., or sometimes certain features are restricted in specific states.
What did the sources say about availability?
Kraken is noted as not being available in all 50 states. New York, Washington, and Maine were explicitly mentioned as no-go states in one source, and there might be other state-level restrictions on things like staking or certain ways to fund your account.
And Binance.us.
Even more restricted. One source said it's currently unsupported in 16 U.S. states. That's quite a chunk of the country where you just don't use it.
16 states.
Oh.
Wow. So Coinbase has the edge here.
Generally, yes. Coinbase is supported in more U.S. states than Binance.us. So, depending on where you live, your choice might actually be made for you if one or two of these platforms simply aren't licensed to operate there.
Definitely something people need to check first. How about getting money onto the platform? Payment methods.
Yeah, that affects accessibility too. Coinbase is often cited as offering a slightly wider range of payment methods, including PayPal integration, which is pretty convenient for a lot of people.
Does Kraken have PayPal now?
Sources indicate yes, they actually expanded their options quite a bit in 2025, adding Apple Pay, Google Pay, and PayPal. So they've caught up quite a bit there, closing that gap. All three support the basics like bank transfers, ACH wire, and credit debit cards. But as we already discussed, the fees on those methods can vary a lot between them.
Okay, so let's recap the user experience angle. For absolute beginners, Coinbase generally wins on pure simplicity. Kraken and Binance.us might be more complex initially, though Kraken's trying to improve with simple mode. Availability is a huge hurdle. Check your state first. Binance.us is the most restricted. Payment options are becoming more similar, but Coinbase might still have slightly better terms on things like card fees or free ACH.
That sums it up pretty well.
Yeah.
Now, for people who want to go beyond just buying and holding, let's look at the advanced trading tool and ways to potentially earn yield.
Right. This is where things get interesting for more active folks. You mentioned advanced trading interfaces for both Kraken and Coinbase.
Yep. Kraken has Kraken Pro, Coinbase has Coinbase Advanced. Both give you the more professional setup, detailed charts, live order books showing buys and sells, and more complex order types than just buy now.
Are they pretty much the same, those advanced platforms?
Similar concepts, but sources suggest Kraken Pro generally offers a wider range of those advanced order types. Things like stop limit orders, trailing stops, OCO orders. One cancels the other. These are tools serious traders use to manage risk and automate strategies. Plus, as we noted, the fees on Kraken Pro are consistently lower than on Coinbase Advanced.
Okay, so Kraken Pro might have an edge for sophisticated traders. What about trading with borrowed money, margin, and futures?
Big area of difference, and also higher risk, definitely for experienced traders only. Kraken supports both. Margin trading lets you borrow funds to amplify your position size, up to 5 times leverage according to sources. Futures trading lets you bet on future price moves with even more leverage, cited up to 50x on Kraken.
50x leverage, wow. And Binance.
Binance Global is famous for offering very high leverage, sometimes up to 125x on futures. Binance.us might offer some margin or futures, but likely with restrictions compared to global.
What about Coinbase? Do they offer leverage for U.S. users?
This is key. Coinbase Advanced does offer futures trading, but sources clearly state it's only for non-US customers. And even then, the leverage is lower, like up to 5x, maybe 3x for certain coins like XRP. So if you're in the US and want to trade with leverage on margin or futures, Kraken is a main option among these three.
Got it. Big distinction there. How about earning passive income, staking, lending, that kind of thing?
Very popular feature. And again, differences in potential returns and the fees they take. Binance Global is often cited as potentially offering the highest headline APY, the annual percentage yield, on staking for some coins, sometimes really high numbers, like up to 35%.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Too good to be true.
Well, here's the catch, one source pointed out. Binance might also charge a very high service fee on those staking rewards, listed as potentially up to 35%. So that huge headline number might shrink considerably after they take their cut. The net yield you actually pocket could be much lower.
Ah, the fine print. How do Kraken and Coinbase compare on staking?
Kraken generally offers higher staking rewards and takes a lower commission fee compared to Coinbase, according to the sources. Kraken also supports more coins for staking than Coinbase does, though probably fewer than Binance Global, and offers choices. Flexible staking, where you can unstake quickly but get a lower reward, and bonded staking, where you lock up your coins for longer to get a higher reward.
And Coinbase's staking.
Coinbase offers staking too, with potential APYs up to 12% cited for some assets. But they take a pretty significant commission, 25% of the rewards. So you only keep 75% of whatever the blockchain generates.
25% commission seems high.
It is relatively high compared to Kraken or potentially other platforms. However, Coinbase also has that unique Earn program. It's not staking, but they give you small amounts of crypto just for watching short educational videos about different projects. It's a nice little incentive to learn.
And state restrictions apply here too.
Yes, definitely. Sources mention, for example, that Kraken had to disable staking services for users in New Jersey due to regulatory issues there. So again, availability depends on your location.
Okay. One last feature area. NFTs. Non-fungible tokens. They both have marketplaces now.
Yes, both jumped into the NFT space. But there's a key difference highlighted in the sources for Kraken's marketplace. They offer gasless transactions.
Gasless, meaning no transaction fees.
Essentially, yes. For buying and selling NFTs on Kraken's platform, you don't pay the underlying blockchain network fees, like the often very high Ethereum gas fees. Kraken covers or subsidizes those somehow. Coinbase's NFT marketplace typically does require users to pay those network gas fees, which can make trading NFTs, especially frequently, much more expensive there.
That sounds like a significant advantage for Kraken's NFT platform.
It could be, yeah, especially for active NFT traders.
Okay, that covers a ton on features, from the basics to the advanced stuff. Let's switch gears now to maybe the most crucial element of all. Security, trust, and what happens when things go wrong. What are real users actually saying?
Absolutely. Security is non-negotiable in crypto. All three platforms talk a big game and do implement serious security measures, but the sources reveal differences in their approach, how transparent they are, and crucially, how users feel they're treated when problems arise.
Let's start with the basics. Cold storage, keeping most funds offline.
Fundamental practice. And both Coinbase and Kraken emphasize this heavily. One source mentioned Kraken holds 97% of user funds in cold storage as of 2025. Coinbase states 98%.
Pretty similar high percentages.
Yes. Sources gave a little more color on Kraken's setup, mentioning their cold wallets are air-gapped, meaning physically disconnected from any network spread out geographically in different secure locations, and kept in facilities with military-grade physical security. Coinbase likely does similar things, but Kraken seems slightly more vocal about the specifics in the sources we saw.
Okay, what about protecting individual accounts? Multi-factor authentication, MFA or 2FA?
Essential. All platforms require or strongly recommend it. The options differ slightly. Kraken supports authenticator apps like Google Authenticator Authy, and also hardware security keys like YubiKey. Coinbase supports authenticator apps too, biometric logins like fingerprint or Face ID on mobile, and also SMS text message codes.
SMS, I thought that wasn't considered very secure anymore.
You're right, that's a key difference highlighted. Security experts generally advise against using SMS for 2FA because of the risk of SIM swapping, where a scammer tricks your phone carrier into transferring your number to their phone, letting them intercept your codes. Kraken specifically has a policy of not allowing phone or SMS recovery for accounts they see it as a vulnerability. Coinbase still offers SMS as an option, which is arguably less secure. So Kraken takes a slightly harder line there for better security.
Interesting difference. What about the bigger picture regulations, insurance? Does that make users safer?
It provides a framework, definitely. All three operate under U.S. regulations. Binance.us, for example, is registered as a money services business, MSB, with FinCEN, the government's financial crimes watchdog. They also need money transmitter licenses, MTLs, in the states they operate in.
And what does that mean practically?
It means they have to comply with strict rules like Know Your Customer, KYC, verifying who you are, and anti-money laundering, AML, monitoring transactions for suspicious activity. These come from laws like the Bank Secrecy Act and the Patriot Act. Kraken is also an MSB and has gone further, getting licenses in Europe like an EMI license in the UK and a MiFID license in the EU. They also boast about security certifications like ISO and SOC reports, which audit their processes.
And Coinbase.
Yeah.
They're known for focusing on compliance, right?
Very much so. Also registered with FinCEN, holds state licenses. They provide insurance, but it's specific. It covers crypto held in their hot storage, the small amount kept online only if Coinbase itself gets breached. It doesn't cover your individual account being compromised.
But what about regular cash, US dollars, held on Coinbase?
That's different. USD balances on Coinbase are FDIC insured, up to $250,000 per person, just like a regular bank account. That's a significant reassurance for cash holdings. And one source mentioned that the SEC lawsuit against Coinbase was reportedly dropped or settled around February 2025, which could be seen as positive for their regulatory standing pending final approval.
Okay, FDIC for cash is good, but let's be really clear that FDIC or the Coinbase insurance doesn't cover your actual Bitcoin or Ethereum if the exchange fails.
Right.
This isn't like a normal brokerage.
Critically important distinction. You hit the nail on the head. Traditional brokerages have SIPC insurance, protecting your stocks and cash up to $500,000 if the firm goes bankrupt. Crypto exchanges holding your crypto. They generally do not have that kind of protection for the crypto assets themselves.
So what happens if an exchange goes bust?
The sources are explicit. Unless the user agreement says something different, which is rare, if a custodial exchange fails, you, the user with crypto on their platform, could just be considered an unsecured creditor, meaning you get in line behind secured lenders and might get pennies on the dollar or nothing. Your crypto could be lost. That's the core counterparty risk.
I saw a note about Kraken's custody service being insured.
Yes, but that's key. It's likely their separate, dedicated custody service, probably for big institutions or high net worth clients. It's not the standard account you or I would use for trading on the main exchange. That distinction is vital. Don't assume your trading funds have that specific $500 million insurance.
So this whole custodial versus non-custodial thing is really fundamental to risk.
Absolutely. Custodial means the exchange holds your private keys. Non-custodial means you hold your keys. And this leads directly to the number one piece of advice echoed across pretty much all sources and user comments. Don't store large amounts of crypto on any exchange long-term, period. Exchanges are for trading, for converting fiat to crypto and back. They're on-ramps and off-ramps, not secure vaults for your life savings.
So where should people keep crypto they plan to hold for a while?
Self-custody. Use a wallet where you control the private keys. Hardware wallets like Ledger or Trezor are constantly recommended as the gold standard for security, keeping your keys completely offline. Software wallets where you hold the keys are another option, maybe for smaller amounts, generally seen as less secure than hardware, but still better than leaving it on an exchange.
The old saying, not your keys, not your crypto.
That's the mantra. If the exchange holds the keys, you're trusting them completely, not just with security, but also against their potential failure or regulatory action. Self-custody gives you control.
Okay. And besides the exchange's security in using self-custody, what about just basic personal security? User error seems like a big factor.
Huge factor. The sources really stress this. Many crypto thefts happen because the user security was weak, not because the exchange itself was hacked.
Like what kind of things?
Using strong, unique passwords ideally generated and stored by a password manager. Using robust 2FA authenticator apps or hardware keys. not SMS if you can avoid it. Being hyper aware of phishing scams, fake emails, fake login pages trying to steal your credentials, enabling features like withdrawal address whitelisting so funds can only be sent to addresses you've pre-approved, regularly checking your login history, avoiding public Wi-Fi for accessing accounts, keeping your computer and software updated, using antivirus. Just basic digital hygiene, but it's critical in crypto. Your own practices are often the most important defense.
That's a really thorough look at security from all sides. But, sometimes things still go wrong, and that's when customer support becomes absolutely vital. The user experiences here, especially from Reddit that we looked at, seem pretty polarized.
That's putting it mildly. This is probably the area with the starkest contrast in user sentiment, based on the sources, especially the anecdotal stuff from forums. A real split.
Okay, let's hear it. What are users saying about Coinbase support?
Overwhelmingly negative, based on the comments reviewed. People use words like terrible, useless, non-existent, slow, like waiting 24 hours or more just for a generic reply, if they get one at all, feeling like they're talking to a chatbot that can't help.
Wow.
Yeah, and several users specifically mentioned having to pay for that Coinbase One subscription just to feel like they could reach a real, responsive human being for support. The frustration, especially when accounts are locked or money is missing, sounds intense in those reports.
Okay, that sounds pretty bad. How does Kraken support compare in these user accounts?
Night and day, according to many of these reports, users consistently describe Kraken support as superior, responsive, helpful, human. They talk about getting knowledgeable agents quickly.
Any specific examples?
Yeah, there were anecdotes shared, like Kraken support helping someone recover crypto they accidentally sent to the wrong address type, or helping someone quickly regain access after losing their 2FA device. These are situations where fast, competent help is absolutely crucial. Multiple users flat out said they switched from Coinbase to Kraken specifically because the support experience was so much better. Kraken's support staff are even sometimes seen helping people directly on Reddit, which builds goodwill.
So support seems like a massive differentiator in user perception. What about other account problems, like getting locked out or banned?
Another area with notable user complaints, again, particularly aimed at Coinbase. Lots of reports from users saying their Coinbase account got locked, sometimes frozen for weeks or months, or even permanently closed, often with no clear reason given or extreme difficulty getting it resolved.
Any idea why that might be happening?
Online speculation ranges from automated security flags going wrong, maybe strict compliance triggers related to anti-money laundering laws, like moving funds to new external wallets looking suspicious, or maybe just genuine user error or shady activity. But the core complaint isn't always that it happened, but the reported lack of transparency from Coinbase about why, and the nightmare users described trying to get a human to actually investigate and fix it, leaving them unable to access their own money.
Are there similar complaints about Kraken locking accounts?
There are some negative reports about Kraken too, naturally. Things like issues with accessing accounts, problems with specific deposits like certain stablecoins, or an issue mentioned involving Bitcoin SV. But based on the volume and severity in the user feedback we reviewed, the Coinbase account lock issues seem significantly more prevalent and frustrating for users trying to get resolution. The Reddit threads showed what one source called a clear split. Many users trusting Kraken more for reliability and support, even if Coinbase has way more users overall, which might naturally lead to more complaints just by sheer numbers.
That real-world feedback is just invaluable, isn't it? It goes so far beyond just picking boxes on a feature list.
It really does, because the best security system in the world doesn't feel great if you get locked out by mistake and can't get anyone to help you for weeks. That human element, the support when things go wrong, can totally define your experience and trust in a platform, no matter how low the fees are.
Absolutely. Okay, we've covered a massive amount of ground fees, features, security, trust, user experiences. But this space changes so fast. Are these platforms just sitting still?
No way. It's incredibly dynamic. One source gave a peek at Kraken's stated plans, just as an example. They talked about expanding more in Europe, adding more coins, improving their AI safety tools, making account recovery faster, redesigning their app, adding more staking options, eyeing new markets.
So constantly evolving.
Constantly. The comparison we're doing today is a snapshot. These platforms will keep changing, adding things, responding to competition and regulation.
Okay, time to pull it all together then. Based on everything we've dug into from the sources, let's synthesize the key takeaways, the strengths and weaknesses of each one.
All right, let's start with Coinbase. Strength. Super beginner-friendly, really easy-to-use interface, widest availability across U.S. states compared to Binance.us, good payment options, including PayPal, strong reputation for compliance, FDIC insurance on USD, insurance on hot storage, plus that EARN program for learning.
And the downsides for Coinbase.
Generally higher fees, especially for simple trades. And then the big one, from user reports, widespread criticism of customer support responsiveness and effectiveness, plus those concerning reports about accounts being locked without clear resolution paths. Also, fewer advanced trading features and far fewer trading pairs than Kraken.
Okay. How does Kraken stack up in summary?
Kraken's strengths: lower fees, especially on Kraken Pro. Excellent long-standing security reputation that never hacked claim is powerful. Supports more fiat currencies globally, significantly more trading pairs than Coinbase, which is great for traders, and according to user reports, much better, more responsive customer support. Also good for advanced U.S. traders wanting margin and futures.
Weaknesses for Kraken.
The interface can be more intimidating for total beginners, although that simple mode might help. It's not available in every U.S. state like New York or Washington. And while their custody service is insured, the crypto you hold on the main exchange doesn't have that SIPC-style protection against platform failure.
Got it. And finally, Binance.us.
Main strength: often the absolute lowest spot trading fees, potentially very high staking APYs, but need to watch out for those potentially high service fees on the rewards. Inherits the massive asset variety from Binance Global, though the U.S. selection is more limited.
Downsides for Binance.us.
Significant state restrictions unavailable in 16 states is a big one. Limited asset selection compared to global Binance. The fee structure, while low for spot, can be complex overall. Some user reports mention issues with AI-driven or less responsive support compared to Kraken, and maybe slightly less transparency on specific security details compared to the other two in the sources we looked at, although they meet the compliance requirements.
So it really boils down to the listener, doesn't it? Which one is the right fit for you?
Exactly. This whole deep dive, pulling from all these sources, just makes it crystal clear. There's no single best exchange. It's totally personal. It depends on what you need, your experience level, how often you trade, what coins you care about, and what you prioritize cost. Ease of use, features, security reputation, customer support when things go wrong.
So if you're that complete beginner, maybe overwhelmed by crypto, you just want simple, easy, compliant.
Coinbase keeps coming up as the most accessible entry point based on the sources. Just be aware of the higher potential costs and the reported support issues.
But if you're maybe more experienced, or you plan to trade actively, you care about low fees, lots of options, maybe leverage, and you really value that responsive support,
Kraken looks like a very strong contender based on user feedback and features, especially Kraken Pro. Assuming, of course, it's available in your state. Its security record and support reputation are major pluses according to the sources.
And if your absolute #1 priority is just squeezing out the lowest possible spot trading fee, maybe chasing high staking yields, and you can handle complexity and the state asset limitations,
then Binance.us might be the one to look at closely. Again, understanding the trade-offs in availability, support perceptions, and complexity compared to its global parent.
it really is about matching the platform's profile, its pros and cons from the sources, with your own profile as a user, your goals, your tolerance for risk, what you value most.
Exactly. You have to look past the marketing hype and get into these details and really consider those real-world user experiences we talked about.
So as you weigh all these factors, the fees, the security layers, the available features, the trust signals from other users, maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. In a market like crypto, which is always changing, always volatile, how does your own personal balance between saving money versus feeling secure and supported actually shape which exchange feels like the right partner for your journey?
It's your strategy, your risk appetite, reflected in your choice.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of U.S. crypto exchanges. We really hope laying out all these details helps you navigate your choices.